It's time for Who Watch, Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
Black girls have the box.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Connie, and Robin coming to you live from the Time Vortex. And also joining us today is Kumutha Lane.
Hi.
Hi, Kumutha, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Today we're discussing episode 6 of Doctor Who season 11, Demons of the Punjab. In this episode, the Doctor officiates a wedding, Yaz does what Rose could never do, and Ryan gets a gold star. Robin wrote that one.
I did, because
it's fine. I appreciate it.
That is what happened.
Was it wrong? Was it wrong?
I didn't say it was wrong. I just said I didn't write it. I just had to read it.
Yeah. All right. So, again, Kumutha Lane is joining us. Thank you. Kumutha Lane is a stay-at-home and Girl Scout mom of 2 kids from New York, currently living in D.C. Her husband is the host of Comics in the Golden Age podcast. She's a Trekkie, another one of me. Yay! And a sci-fi lover who knits and has been watching Doctor Who since she was 5 years old. Kumutha, could you let us know a little bit about your background and what you were maybe hoping or expecting from this episode?
Well, growing up, I never thought I would see someone like me be a companion. I mean, when we were growing up, we didn't really see a lot of colored people on sci-fi shows, So when I found out that, we were having a companion like Yaz, I was like, oh my gosh, she's brown. She looks like me. So I was like, yay, I can cosplay now. But,
I love how it immediately goes to cosplay.
Right?
Always. No,
right?
Me too. When Bill came on the scene, I was just like, it's my time.
Yes.
It's my time.
Right?
I'm here.
When you see on TV or the movies, whenever you see a brown person, it's either a terrorist or they're a doctor. So it's like, you're either a really bad character or a really good character. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And so, I love that Yaz is, she's a Muslim, she's a police officer, she comes from a kind and loving family, and she's just trying to, live her life. And so, I was just really interested because a lot of people don't know the history of the partition of 1947. They don't need to, but it affected so many people in India. And so I was very curious to see how they were going to pull it off. And I think they really, really did a great job. I was really happy with that.
Yeah, I had no idea of all of that stuff. I was trying to Google it afterwards, and I was a bit overwhelmed by Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But, it's not something that I remember learning in school or anything like that. So it was great to see it happen on screen, and I'm glad that people who come from that heritage seem to be pleased with it. Kind of like us with Rosa.
Right?
I did learn about the partition in terms of dates and things, but I don't remember learning about the violence and how it was so kind of tearing apart families and you had to choose your side. I just thought it was more kind of gerrymandering,
Actually, you're
they drew this line because most of the Muslims live on this side, and then and I knew that there was a lot of issues with Hindus being drawn into Pakistan and then all of a sudden becoming a minority in a country. But I didn't realize the violence that it caused. And as we were watching this episode, I was thinking of course this would have been a major upheaval.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, giving up a strong colonial country like India was very hard for the British. And so, at the end of the day, they gave us our freedom, but we paid a pretty hefty price for that freedom. So I kind of see it as, that was their final little revenge, that they got, that they, took something that Gandhi fought for. So, his entire life, that's what he fought for. And at the end, when India got his independence, the British went to leaders of Pakistan or before Pakistan and said, we would like to give you a country as well. And Gandhi was totally against it. He wanted it to remain India. And so even at even when it was created, he was very upset because he knew that it was going to create such a separation between Hindus and Muslims. And that's not something he wanted because they were all fighting for independence, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs. And so I think it was, quite lots of damage done there. And we still feel it today. I see Pakistanis as my people. A lot of people don't. Maybe it's because I live here. Maybe I have an American point of view. I don't know. But, there's still lots of struggle between India and Pakistan. And when did this happen? 1947.
Yeah, that's one of the craziest parts, that it's been so long and that tension is still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
But
it's also not that long.
Right. At the same time.
I feel like it's also interesting to think about, just the fact that we did get Rosa, and that's only, how many years after? It was 55. So maybe, 8 years after the partition, and, thinking about these two separate things that are happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's all white people just messing us up.
I mean, this episode, I also felt like this episode did, whereas we got a lot of, face-to-face and, overt racism in the Rosa episode, I feel like this one was very much, this is just, the doctor and Graham were the white people in the episode, but, you could still very much feel the, colonialism and the racism that, went into them being in this situation. Felt like that was done really well without it having to be, really overt or, to have them, around.
Or a repetition of what they did with Rosa, because I think they could have had more white people, be the villains in the episode.
Or even be the victims of, the colonialists having to flee or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could have...
That's definitely one way they could have gone.
Could have also done that, and that would have made me very upset, but they...
Yeah.
But I like the fact that Graham and the doctor didn't have a lot to say or do in the episode. I like the fact that, there was a story to tell, and I like the relationship between two brothers. One brother, was looking forward to, a brand new India, and the other wasn't. And that is true for a lot of families. A lot of families felt that way. Friends were friends, and it didn't matter if you're Hindu or Muslim, and all of a sudden, two countries were separated, and then all of a sudden you became my enemy. That says so much about us as human beings, how quickly we can change when...
Yeah.
How tribal we are,
Yeah, I'm just fascinated that it was just such a quick, well, now obviously we have to be enemies. No, that... even across countries, you don't have to do that. Yeah. And yet the whole, so many people in the countries... as it was being divided, kind of got sucked into that, and that's fascinating.
Can you imagine, a million people dying over this? It's crazy to me. It's really sad. A really good movie to watch that talks a lot about this is the movie Gandhi. So if you guys ever get a chance, that's a good movie to watch.
I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Yeah, but that tells a story about the partition and how he fought against it. And, so that's a very painful movie to watch, but, it's a good one to watch. So they did a good job on that. This episode also I love it because there's lots of tie-ins that I think Indians would get that other people don't, like what I was saying.
Please tell.
My Twitter account, my tweet, the name Prem, everyone knows in India it means love.
Wow.
And I love that was the name of her husband. Yeah. His name was Love.
Oh,
and so I just and I just he was Hindu, she was Muslim, and I was thinking that's just back then to do something like that. I'm sure people did, but that's sort of kind of like my marriage. My husband, I'm really short, really Indian. My husband's really tall and really white. Really white. Not even white, pink. And my parents were dead against it.
Wow.
They were like, no, nope. We don't know where they come from. Their culture is different. A lot of people weren't happy with it because they didn't want their kids to be getting married to white men either. I was setting a bad example.
Once you break the seal.
But I broke the seal, hey.
Yeah, minority families are so similar.
They are. Well, because it's all about fear, right? I mean, it's like you're going to something that you don't know, and it's all based on fear. You don't want your child to get hurt. But then after a couple of years later, my parents are like, "Why did you marry her?" We don't understand why.
It's like, oh, suddenly they're on his side.
Like, what's wrong with you? Why did you marry her? She only has a bachelor's degree. You're a lawyer.
Wow. Cold world.
Thanks, parents. Thanks for that. I always get weary when people, they do episodes based on other cultures because you don't want them to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of when Indiana Jones came out with the Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
When that movie came out, so many people would, did you eat monkey brains? No.
Oh no.
Idiot. I eat monkey brains.
Yikes.
I
don't think I made it that far in the franchise.
I think that's the thing that I've been really enjoying about the season 2 is that they're letting, so Vinay Patel wrote this story and they're letting people tell their own stories, which I think is super important and something that's really missing. And as you could see with Indiana Jones' Crystal Skull, some white dude tried to tell someone else's story and it didn't go well. And all of a sudden you're eating monkey brains. And I think that I've been really enjoying it too because there's an authenticity that's being shown. And even in the performances with this and with Rosa, we're getting this these performances that are born out of love and care because the writing is born out of love and care. And so I've been really enjoying that. But I can also see the fear that Doctor Who's bringing to it. They're really scared of getting anything wrong. And it's sometimes you'll get something wrong, but as long as you're doing it, you're giving the right people the pen, you're putting the right people in power. Because we talked about with Rosa, it's a Black woman is writing it, but she's still a Black British woman. And that's not even to say that Black American women would get it 100% right. You know what I mean? It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it right, but it's just it's you have a much better shot of getting it right.
But it's interesting that it's a British show. It's a British writer for that episode, and yet they got it, so they did it well. They did a really good job of that.
And I think because when you're 55 years old, and the history that Britain had, with Rosa, it's sort of this was a story that they told across the pond that they didn't really have any direct influence over as a country, but this is British history. This is not they went necessarily into another culture like they did, but this is also very tied into their history as British people. So you do have to take a step back. We do have to get this right because it's been 55 years and we haven't had any South Asian people on this show in any significant, despite the large population of South Asians who live in Britain because of partition.
Yeah, right?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, it's Vinay Patel is a British writer, but how did Vinay Patel and his family get to Britain?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that is a really good point, Connie. I also, there was a article or blog post that was talking, and they had spoke to Vinay Patel, and he was talking about why this season is so diverse and how it's bringing that, diversity back and how impactful it is. And so we had a conversation and someone had asked us the question of when did you feel seen in Doctor Who? Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that this was the first time that you really felt seen, Kumutha. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what did that mean to you? Because I still, we were talking about it and I was I still don't think I felt seen yet. I mean, we've gotten closer. But what did that mean to you? Because you've been watching the show since you were 5.
Yeah.
So it means the show means a lot to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and she's not a favorite for a lot of people, but my favorite companion was Martha.
Yeah.
You're in the right group.
When Martha came along, she was the closest to my color than anyone. And she was a doctor.
But isn't that the thing, though, of when I was growing up, Jasmine was my favorite Disney princess because she was just the closest in color.
Right? It's Pocahontas, come on, girl.
We out here.
I'm right here, girl. I'm right here. But, I loved Martha. She was smart. They didn't make her a stereotypical, a character that they usually do. And I like the way, especially that episode where they had to go back in time and Martha had to play the doctor's servant.
Oh, Family of Blood.
And, she was talking, the nurse is like, well, how do I know you're a doctor? And she tells her, the different parts of her hand. And I just thought that was a brilliant scene. And so when, I saw pictures of Mandeep Gill, I was like, wow, it's an Indian person, as a companion. And, my husband was the first person to tell me about it. And he was like, look, he's like, that's pretty cool. I said, not only do you have one companion, but you have three. You have an older white man. Yeah. You have a young black man, super hot, by the way. And,
but Ayana, you got some more competition.
It's not even competition. I feel like at this point we all just like
this is
appreciate together. You know what I mean?
Ryan Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
And then you have her, and I like the fact that she's young. She has her own voice. She's a police officer. She's not a terrorist. She's not all scared of her parents or, that kind of stereotypical female role that you see sometimes. And, I like that she's curious, and that's always with the companion. They have to be curious because they're playing, they're playing us, but it's just, in this day and age to see something like that, even for my kids, my kids are half white, half Indian. One kid looks more white, one kid looks more Indian. Their experiences in this country are going to be different, and that's just the way that it is. And they're going to see life differently. And so even my oldest, who looks more, she's more brown. So she's like, Mom, look, you can cosplay as Yaz. And, I just thought, and she said, we can cosplay together. And so I was like, right. It's different. It's like
heart is losing it right now.
It's just nice to see. I do get annoyed when so many people are like, this season is horrible. It's trying to be too PC. Well, you know what, my friend? Walk a day in my shoes.
Right.
Walk a day
and they should
with
be able to do that. It's been
True,
we've been watching Doctor Who for however many 55 years and have had to walk in their shoes. So at this point, it's the least they could do.
It's literally the least that they can do is like have some empathy and relate to someone that doesn't look like them because we've been doing it forever. But it's also, I go back to this, like, what is wrong with being PC? What's wrong with not being offensive?
Right.
What's wrong with being
inclusive.
Yeah. Fine. Like my daughter's like, why is it so wrong to be PC? We're just trying to be kind to other human beings.
And that's
I was
literally
like,
what the
girl,
show
you
is
get
about.
It, you're 12.
And that's literally what the show has always been about. The Doctor goes around to different planets and is like, you guys have to be nice to each other, and then leaves.
Right.
And it's like genuinely a curious person. And the way that the Doctor, the execution isn't always there, but the intent of the Doctor is like, I want to travel. I just want to, and like to be a traveler is to go into other cultures and just see, not to insert yourself in like, and change their culture. That shouldn't be the point. But to like experience someone else's life.
Like he has his own version of like the Prime Directive.
Right. Right.
And
just like in Star Trek, the Prime Directive doesn't always work. But the intent is there, and the intent, there should be nothing wrong. And like, it's an ideal that we should be striving toward.
So just thinking about Yaz in this episode and kind of her development throughout the season so far, but also like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to think about kind of the stuff that we did learn about her in this episode. I know for me, like, I think seeing the way that and it's really hard to, like, not compare her with Rose in this episode. And I was trying not to because I know that I'm, like, biased against Rose. And so I was trying to just, like, keep it. This is what Yaz is doing, and let's ignore her. And I also think, like, the situation is different, too, given that, like, Rose's dad was dead versus like her grandmother is still alive. So she's like, we're just, sleuthing in the back to figure out what was going on with her life.
I'm sorry. Before you continue, I'm sorry. I found Rose super annoying.
Yeah.
Again, you're in the right and good company. You're in good company.
Yeah.
That's like every single day. Wine.
I mean, I had to stop, like, when I was first watching Doctor Who, like, I got to Father's Day, like, they showed the, like, next time or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna not, because I already know she's gonna be I was only 7 episodes in, and I was like, I'm gonna take a break. Let's just pause, because I can't with she did too much. But I also, in a way, feel like Yaz did, but I didn't hate it. Like, I feel like there was something in her grandmother's past that she, like, very clearly didn't want to talk about. And Yaz was like, well, then let's just go back in time and find out what that is.
Yeah. I kind of...
Which, like, I get, like, if you have the access to time travel, then, like, sure.
It's literally, Yaz was just like, what's the point of having a friend who can time travel if you can't go where you want?
My grandmother's deep, dark secrets. Like, it reminded me a lot of, like, so my grandfather fought in Vietnam. And does not talk about it. So he does. I don't know. I know nothing about it other than that he was there. And it's one of the ways that I believe, because he is originally from Panama, so that's, like, how he ended up gaining his citizenship. So, like, it's not a thing that he talks about. So I don't even not talk about it. So it was interesting to see Yaz be like, well, I have a time machine, so I'm going to just go see what happened. But I also think for her, it felt like it went, like, it allowed her then, when she went back, to talk to her grandma and, like, respect her and respect her choice to not say anything. Yeah. Which was interesting, I feel like.
Yeah, I definitely found that interesting as someone who... my grandma's math is just, some dates happened at times.
Funny math.
It's just a little funny math. And I don't remember when I actually figured that out, but I think in college or a little after, and I've just never brought it up because it's like, it doesn't actually matter. Yeah. And, if she wanted to talk about it, she would. And so I'm just like, I'm going to let you rock with that. But I do just know that, like, these two things happened before that thing. And, I have questions, but I'm going to let you live. And, like, I want to respect her choice to not talk about it, especially because I understand that the reason why she's not talking about it is because it doesn't actually matter in the bigger picture for things. And so I feel like that's something that Yaz kind of learned by getting to find out, where it's like, I sort of figured this thing out and then was just like, I'm going to continue to respect her decision not to talk about it because
she knows it's painful.
Yeah.
She knows it's
painful.
And
I think that's something that we have to learn about our older generation.
Like and your parents,
not ancestors or whatever, but your parents and your grandparents and things like that. It's a lot of that stuff because even, like, how my family moved from Oklahoma to California is kind of, like, not really talked about in a long, and I figured that out when my school, we had to read Grapes of Wrath, and I was like, oh, so we did that, but the black version, so it was way worse. and just, like, learning that, like, all of those things are just it's not even, like, secrets, it's just, like, it's trauma, and, like, the best, sometimes for people, like, the best ways to deal with trauma is to not
you block it,
especially decades
or you
later,
block it.
And you're
but also, like, I did
on and
but also I did understand Yaz, like, in the beginning where she's like, this is our heritage, right? Like, so she's very much like, I want to know more about, because I feel that way thinking about my grandparents too. Like, I want to know that history. But then that's difficult for them because that's something that's not history for them. It's just, like, their lives. So it's like it's an odd balance.
Yeah. But I like that. Once again, it's a very honest human emotion. If anyone had a time machine,
like,
they would, that's what they would, even if you didn't have a very important or not important, but, any type of reason, she had a valid reason. She wanted to see what was going wrong, what went wrong that grandma doesn't talk about her life, or even if it's to go see someone who's passed. Why wouldn't you want to go spend one more day with that person? It's like, my mother-in-law just passed away in January. If I had the TARDIS, I would totally ask the doctor to go see her one more time. I would love that.
So
it's
and
like
I'm so interested in the doctor agreeing because
Thing.
Father's Day did happen.
Yeah.
And it's still in our history.
It's also one of the things, well, she says, I'm too kind, I shouldn't have done this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do believe that the doctor does that 9 times out of 10 if her companion, there's a lot of Father's Day that we just didn't see, and a lot of companions that are not Rose, so didn't
to mess up the entire fabrication of time and peace.
Didn't start to unravel all of the universe. But I think that that's so true. Like, it's a very, I never begrudged Rose the request.
Yes, yeah.
I never begrudged that.
Yeah. Because any person who had that choice would do it.
Yeah. I just begrudged her
it was the execution.
The follow-up.
Yeah.
The follow-up. I think that, the other thing about Yaz that we learned, and this is, I don't know if we learned more about Yaz, but what we learned about her family is, she comes from a line of, strong, badass women. So we, see in Arachnids.
But you don't see. You don't see that in TV. Usually when you see a Muslim family, you see the woman very quiet, subdued and, listening. And it's not her family. They're all loud.
I mean, and we saw, with Arachnids in the UK, Naja was, on it. And she was very much, she had this moment where she got fired and she, needed, she was embarrassed and she wanted Yaz to pick her up, not tell her dad. But, and so she had that moment of vulnerability. But, when the shit went down and, she's protecting
charge.
She took charge and she... is not going to let her daughter get eaten by no spider the size of a van. And then we see Umbreen, her grandmother, and then her great-grandmother also. All just listen, I have things to say. I have opinions. I know how this is going to work or what's going to happen because I'm not giving up. And she's
a good actress. She was from that movie Bend It Like Beckham. She played the mom in that.
I haven't seen the movie in so long.
I love that movie so much.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, she played the mom.
Let's rewatch it, guys.
Yeah, we have to. I love that movie.
I love that movie.
The soundtrack is pretty cool too. Yeah, I like the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we see Yaz get a chance to be
strong.
And buy it. We didn't really get that in this episode, but I'm hoping that, how many more episodes do we have? 4?
5? I think there's 10 in all, correct?
There's 10.
I think there's 10.
So there's 4.
6?
So we have 4 more.
Really? Boo.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And I feel like I waited 1,000 years for this season.
We did wait 1,000 years, and they should have at least given us 13.
And we might have to wait more, because they're talking about... We might not get
Christmas special.
There's no Christmas special, and we might not be getting it next
special.
There might be a New Year
thing,
special,
but it's not Christmas technically.
But I want a Christmas special.
Yes.
Basically,
I don't care. I just want to make sure that it's not in
one more.
Well, they said a New Year's Eve special,
and then no Who in 2020. Yeah. Until 2020, so we'll see.
Nothing until 2020. This is
maybe that. I think that part might have been part of the rumor part. I'm not sure.
Well, I also like the relationship she has with Ryan
because they're going to get together. You see it.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
SS Razzmatazz.
I ship it. But I also like the relationship that Graham has with his step grandson. I like Graham. You know why I like Graham? Because he reminds me of my father-in-law.
Yeah.
Because he also lost his wife, and so I see a lot of his aching for his wife. I see that a lot with my own father-in-law at the moment. But I like those two. I like that she's a friend to him, but she's also motherly, but she also cares for him, and I like that. I think it's very. I hope they get together.
Yeah.
I will say that Graham and Yaz actually got time together in this episode.
I was going to say that. I appreciate
and Graham gets on my nerves, but they are doing a decent job in the post-Grace world.
Well, maybe Graham is supposed to get on your nerves, and
that's fine. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with living in this space. But I did think their conversation was interesting and him kind of giving her perspective, because I think that Yaz is someone it seems like she's very much about how things are supposed to go and how they're supposed to be, and so in her head she's like, this isn't how it works, so we have to figure out a way to keep my grandmother and Prim apart.
Right.
It's like, that's not how life works, girl. You
Which is also...
I don't even know who your grandfather is to then be like playing Freaky Friday. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So, not Freaky Friday. Parent Trap.
Parent Trap.
Lindsay Lohan.
It's like, ma'am, he's not even in this country right now. Probably.
So we don't even know where he is. But I feel like him being like, you do know, like, your grandmother had life. She's not your grandmother in this moment. Like, she's lived life, and this, she's still on the track to being your grandmother and doing all these things. And I feel like Yaz was so much in this doesn't happen that she didn't think about, like, well, then what happened for this to not be the thing.
Yeah. And it's really funny, like I was talking about, and we have in our Slack community, we talk about the episode like as it's happening and right after. And it's so funny because you go there, you ask the doctor to take you back in time because there's things in your grandmother's life that you don't know and you want to know. And you're finding out this thing that you don't know, and her initial reaction is like, nope. Shut it down. Fix it.
This is not what I thought happened, even though you went back there to find out what happened.
What happened? Yeah. Right. This is you finding out what happened.
Well, I think also because the fact that he was also a Hindu also is a big shocker.
Off, yeah. Which
Can we talk about Manish yet, or are we not there yet? When do we talk about Manish?
I mean, we can talk about it.
Oh, you didn't want to talk about Shane yet first?
I mean, yes, Prim, Shane Zaza. I've been waiting all year for you, and I was not disappointed. They put your face in them promos, and I was like, that episode. That's my favorite episode. That's why. Congratulations. My favorite episode.
Oh my gosh.
It's like calling the doctor and Graham colonizers. Y'all still here? Like,
yeah.
Loved him.
Yeah.
Loved Prim. But Manish.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter Malfoy hybrid that no one asked for.
Listen, it's what Tumblr
like Draco.
It's what Tumblr asked for, okay? So I saw he was wearing those round glasses, and I was like, Tumblr told me about this. This is the Salvation Harry Potter.
I'm glad I'm not the only person. I was like, oh my god, it's the Indian Harry Potter.
It really was.
Right. But it was his face. It was the Indian Harry Potter's face, but his actions were Malfoy, and I was like, what's going on?
Absolutely.
I did really enjoy after I got to like sit on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the idea of like, I've been reading a lot of these like period books and like how war kind of changes you, and like even people that are not in the war, like just the aftermath of war and who it affects and things. But I've also thought a lot about, especially because of we're in America and there's a lot of these people, like what, like extremism and like what turns people that like, because Prim kept saying like, this is not my little brother. Like I came home to a completely different person. And I was really bummed at the first watch, because he didn't get like that redemption. Like when they square off, I was like, oh, they're gonna hug. Yeah. He's gonna like feast it. And then something else is gonna happen. I don't know what else is gonna happen, but something else is gonna happen. But this is not what's gonna happen right now, because it's Doctor Who. This doesn't happen.
They said, screw what you thought.
Yeah.
They're like,
but I also the point too. Like it was.
Yeah, but I also think
that was the point, is that you get people sometimes they get radicalized, or I don't even know, they get caught up and they're lost and they stay lost and you don't get them back. Like, but like his little brother was gone.
But that also happened in real life. Friends turned on friends. Even if you were a Muslim neighbor, you turned on your Muslim neighbor the next day because you were promised something you didn't have before. Mm. You were promised your own country. You were promised your own nationality, your own identity. And so I think some people, the word of the week is what? Nationalism, correct? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very... Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people felt that way. And, when you start thinking like that, it leads you down this very dangerous road. Mm-hmm. And you do change. And that's what I loved about this episode. Friends turning into enemies and families being torn apart. It really happened. And I like that, they did that part really well. I mean,
they could have sugarcoated it for us a little bit. Listen.
No, Robin, it's before Thanksgiving in America,
I like
and there's
a
some
little
people
bit.
who need to know that you got to square off on your family who
That's
ain't
true.
acting right. You may
That
not,
is true.
you don't gotta go guns drawn, but it is America. But I think that was an interesting, like the timing of this episode was really, poignant in that both it was, it's about this, like crazy time and aired on Veterans Day and Armistice Day, and the so-called villain of the episode, which we kind of got bait and switched on that, was these former assassins that were changed their life to watch over people who were who die in these circumstances and to bear witness to that. And then I just think that this other additional timing of like, this is what happens when someone is radicalized and is, going into this, ideology that you think is not right. And like, there is a level of wanting to work with them or fight for them. And then, but if you don't take the actions at the time you need to, you might suffer unfortunate consequences. And it may not be as serious as death, but right now, this country is, America. This is a British show, but I'm sure they have the same situation with all their Brexit and stuff. Like, there's a lot of this going on globally, like there's so much radicalism going on and like being elected into office in various places. So it's just an interesting, concept for the episode to be touching on at such a precarious time in our history.
Yeah, I also, just when you were saying that, I was thinking, it's set in 1947, and this is when we are like dealing in the aftermath and still beating back fascism like on a worldwide stage. And
whenever people are talking about Armistice Day or how many people fought in the war, a lot of people do not know how many people of former colonies fought in these wars. There were black people who in these wars, there were Indian people, there were Sikhs, and when I tell people this, they're like, really? I was like, are you kidding me? We were part of the colonies. I mean, we fought. We fought, but you don't see those pictures. Do you see pictures of black soldiers? Nope.
Not very often.
Do you see pictures of Indians? You don't.
I mean, that's also in part like why they're world wars, because they, especially Britain, like is in every single country. So like the entire, they go to war. The entire world goes to war.
The first battle of World War I happened in Africa because they tried to have their theater of war in a place that they didn't very much care about.
Exactly.
There was a thread on Twitter on Armistice Day talking about like the reason they were world wars were because they were fighting, and they were fighting over land in these countries, France and Europe, Britain and Germany and the Dutch and all these people had different stakes in Africa and in Asia of places where it's just like, oh, well, if we win, we get this place of where there are people who are living who don't want either of you there.
If you go to Buckingham Palace, there's a beautiful map. It's a humongous map, and it says the sun never sets on the British Empire. And the amount of countries and places they owned, it's most of the world, you know, and people are interested in why there are certain people in certain countries. Like, there's a lot of Indian people in Guyana. How did a bunch of Indian people end up in Guyana? People ask me that all the time. They're like, well, because they were brought there by the British to work in their cane sugar factories. And so it's like, even though it happened a long time ago, it still affects people's lives every day.
Yeah, I think I was reading about, I think Macau in China, and the thing it was saying was like, there's a lot of Portuguese stuff there and like Portuguese people, and it's just like, those are two things that you don't really put together, but colonialism. That's why.
There's lots of
colonialism, the original fusion. You love Caribbean Asian fusion? Colonialism.
Colonialism,
The thing that stuck out to me in the colonialism sense was the name dropping of Lord Mountbatten, because I was like, I watched The Crown.
Right? He was the Viceroy of India. before before India got its independence. So he worked with India in getting their independence, but at the same time also worked with the Pakistanis to get their own country, unbeknownst to Gandhi. And so, he kind of felt betrayed that, they were separating, these two, basically brothers. That's how Gandhi saw all of his fellow freedom fighters as their brothers. And so we have to thank Mountbatten for the, creation of India and Pakistan. So yay. Go him.
History has its eyes on you.
It's just, it's still really hard to talk about for so many Indians. I'm sure it's the same story for so many Pakistanis. I mean, can you imagine someone else, a foreigner, telling you that this is the line that's drawn on the place that you were born? Well, we don't have to imagine because, stories like that happen
everywhere.
Where other people tell you that you're property, other people get to sell you, other people get to do all these horrible things to you. I was talking about this to my husband and he said, unfortunately, there's human beings everywhere. It doesn't matter what color you are. We still have that intent of doing so much harm to other people. It's just, we can be so good but we can be so bad at the same time, and
sounds like the doctor talking.
Like that, but also I'm really curious. I was really curious about, or I guess I was just like keeping a closer eye on the doctor in this episode, like in the same way that I was hearing Rosa, just because we don't get, like, we've gotten so little of like that acknowledgement in the past. And like oftentimes when the doctor is kind of like, or like when we're like on the verge of being invaded or we've already been invaded, and then the doctor goes on this whole thing about humans and how great we are and all these things that happened, or what in the 11th hour when he's talking to the Atraxi and he's like, have the humans like violated any of your laws, and they like go through this whole thing, and there's like all these good things, but there's like some terrible shit in the middle of, like, the atomic bomb is in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't violate. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's because we're attacking other humans.
Yeah.
Right. But my point is that, like, it's interesting that, like, oftentimes the doctors have these like rose-colored glasses when it comes to humans, because it's like the way to explain why the doctor is always like, it is protected. And she has this moment in this one too, which was cool. But I think that Prem, like, talking to her as if she's this British human and like and as someone who is culpable in what's happening, even though she's an alien, and and he doesn't know that, but her having to kind of see that is happening, that she is presenting as someone who is a part of that, and in that way, in some ways, she is complicit. Yeah, because she's also not stopping this from happening, right? And she technically has the means to do something. Yeah. So I think it was just, I was kind of like keeping an eye on her and like how she reacts. And I think I'm just really interested to see, I feel like this all the time. Like how does the doctor change moving forward and approaching these kind of situations, but also just like people of color in general, and even aliens too, because she like jumped straight to conclusions about the aliens.
Yeah.
In this
see,
episode.
I
totally wrong.
I thought that was, and we all thought it too, folks. We all thought it.
They showed up all creepy and
the way they looked, the way they dressed. Yeah, that really stood out to me, because we do that too. Yeah,
and I think that's one of the really interesting things so far this season is that there haven't been that many, like, I mean, well, we're getting the Stenza as like the longer, like,
and I think the Stenza might have something to do with the aliens from this episode. They're like homeworld being destroyed. It sounded very familiar. And I was like, is this? They're putting this thread in, but like a little quieter than they had a couple of other episodes. So I'm curious if that'll come back.
Episode 6, and I think I counted. This is like also the 4th episode where there isn't a big bad. That like the big bad is human and like human nature and like what we're doing. So like,
which is Rosa, different,
Yeah. With Rosa, we did get the alien who was like kind of interfering and hoping to like,
change the course of history.
Change history.
But he wasn't really alien. He was just like a future white man.
I think maybe he was a future, like a future human plus. Human. But he human.
Yeah, he probably had some human plus.
But
the overall like thing that we were dealing with, the biggest obstacle was just the system in general, with added on to this white dude trying to change history. And then like arachnids in the UK, it's just like white man science run amok. Well, science run amok.
But like white man corporate greed. That part.
Yeah. Capitalism run amok, and all of a sudden you get giant spiders. And so with this one, it was very human, like, you know, colonialism run amok, and then the aftermath of how other people responded to that colonialism. Yeah. And I'm really enjoying that because I'm like the Doctor and like time or fixed points in time it's kind of like the, you know, the prime directive that we talked about as well. You know, she's very much like, this is a fixed point, like we can't change these things. Yeah. How do you like interact or even start to understand as, you know, Yaz and Ryan and Graham, who are humans, with this like huge cultural like and historical moment that you can't. There isn't like you can't just defeat someone. You can't go tackle Lord Mountbatten and put him in the closet like they did with Hitler.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like these things are in motion and they're beyond.
And it's already done.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
it's not like, well, we came to fix partition.
And I like that. I like that the Doctor wasn't here to save or change. It's something that's already done, you know, and I think that's why the Doctor was kind of, you know, in the background, like, you know, this is already done. We're just trying to move along and not cause
trying not to erase Yaz.
Yeah.
Exactly. Basically.
Was like her main thing. But Yaz was like, I mean, there are demons, so like you talking about me, but like
you know,
you don't want me to get chatty.
It's like, I know we don't want to change the past, but also I don't want to not exist in the present. So let's deal with these demons.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the Doctor's like, listen, there's one thing I know above all. The universe needs Yaz. Like, this is like the third time she's been like, no, I love
Yaz.
you.
She stands for Yaz. Like, she likes Ryan and she likes Graham, but she like really messes with Yaz.
Which, I mean, the Doctor has been mostly attracted to women before, so.
True. Also, I think she's like the most used to traveling with women, whether she's
with women,
right?
Involved or not.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like the scene where they were putting henna because that is a ritual that's just for women, and so I thought that was a pretty funny line. Like, you know, hey, I didn't get to do this as a man. You know, I thought that was a pretty funny.
I loved that,
and I never thought I'd see the Doctor, you know, having henna put on her. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm also loving, like we talked about, like, you know, she's being engaged with as a British person with Prim, but she's also being engaged with as a woman. And I think that's another reason why she loves Yaz, because Yaz can, like, help her, like, oh, you're joking. About never being able to do this as a woman.
Yes. I'm joking.
Joking. That's, you know, and so there's someone who is, like, able to help the Doctor. You know, the companions always kind of help the Doctor or try to help the Doctor blend into humanity, varying levels of success. But, like, now it's not just, like, stop being a weird white dude. Like, you're being a weird white woman, and that's a whole different can of worms. So, I like that.
I like going back to his name. I just kind of light bulb went off in my brain. But another word for prem, it's love, but it's also known as sacrifice.
What?
Oh my gosh!
If you look up the word prem in Wikipedia, there are certain different meanings for prem, and so
is it short for something?
You know, prem in Sanskrit means love. But there's different types of, there's a word called bhakti, which means belief. And so there are certain aspects of the word prem when it combines with bhakti, like love shown in a spiritual, religious kind of way, involves sacrifice. And so prem also means sacrifice in another sense. Wow. And so I just thought it was a very, you know, interesting, you know, name. I think he chose it well, you know, because my cousin's name is Prem. And so I always used to make fun of him that I was like, my name is Liv. And you're a boy. And it's a mean person.
That's what cousins do, though. But
when she said Prem, I was like, And of course, I couldn't tell anyone in my family because they wouldn't know what it meant. So,
Like, Dr.
you know,
Who,
but
what's that?
but I wanted to make sure that that was the meaning before. So, of course, I went on Wikipedia, and that's when I found out, you know, pray means some other things as well. And one of the other things is sacrifice. But, you know, that also has to do with every single episode of the season. Sacrifice is the main action in every single episode in this season.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah.
In the first episode, Nan sacrifices herself. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm already forgetting what the second episode was. Wasn't
the Ghost Monument. Where
Yeah.
she goes, I guess she sacrifices the TARDIS in a way.
Yeah, or those, you know, people in the game that
they sacrifice their winnings, and yeah.
You know, the third one you had the third one was Rosa Parks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rosa
You know?
sacrificing, you know, them sort of, she has to go through this stuff in order to change history. It was a sacrifice for her, and wow, every episode.
And the next episode was what? 5 was Arachnids. The spider.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She sacrificed herself.
And like
for her
the
children.
science lady at the beginning, like
at the
died.
beginning, she sacrificed herself, and then we have Prem. He was the sacrifice, you know. So I think, and that dawned on me.
Eve
what's her
from
name
last week.
Yeah, the Patang, like with her heart thing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Her and also the guy who was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to sacrifice his
you have to
independence.
Exactly. When you become a parent, there's a part of you that you have to sacrifice. And, you know, I think that's an ongoing theme of the season. You know, it just dawned on me. And I was like, what is the core of every single episode in this season that's, you know, that's the same? And that's what I came up with yesterday. So,
Yeah.
But I only got to that point after I saw yesterday's episode because it's the ultimate sacrifice, you know.
Yeah.
He sends her away, you know, he wants her to be safe. And it was a beautiful love story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like the doctor officiates a wedding.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
I also loved how angry Yaz was when the doctor said she'd officiate, because that like very much hit home to me. Like that was a reaction that I, as a younger sister, would have. Like, I don't want this thing to happen, and you're helping make this thing happen that I don't want to happen. You're my friend. You help me.
I'm also confused because why doesn't Nan remember her being there at her wedding?
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious about that.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Like, wouldn't she know?
That's why. But maybe that's why she doesn't want to tell her, because she knows that she finds out. Like once your grandchild
Basically, Yaz
grows
can
up,
never bring the doctor around.
Yeah.
right?
Like she could maybe bring Ryan around, but she can't bring all her friends around at the same time.
Right.
Because
I was expecting in that final moment when Yaz
sort
was
of
talking,
reveal, right?
Yeah, for her to say like, there was a girl there and she looked like you, and that's why I named you Yaz, or
Something like
a
that,
circular.
Yeah. But they didn't do that. So
But, you know,
I did like the lady who played the grandma, especially when she said the letters are for you and don't read the naughty bits.
Yeah.
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 Like,
But I love the end. You know, it's like grandmothers in any nationality, any skin color,
always
any
the
grandmas
best.
or grandmas. They're always the best.
I also really loved her being like, yeah, this is my favorite grandchild.
I know, right? That's a very
You can't. She's like, I'm full.
But see, that's why I think
that's
she
a very
might
Indian
know.
Pakistani thing to say, because we just have no filter.
gosh.
But see, that's why I think she might have known, or like, because she gives her the watch to her favorite grandchild, who she named after a woman she met at her, who attended her wedding, to the man that she loved most and first. And I feel like that, I don't know, they didn't make it explicit, but maybe they're leaving it open for us to interpret whichever way. And I like to think that she was like, oh, wow, my granddaughter, was she there? How was she there?
Yeah.
And then just like somehow either just decided, well, I don't know how she was there, but she was there because that's the same woman. It's the same face because it's the same, it's the watch.
It must be weird too, like as she grows up, to like see her
develop
grow into this person that you're like, you're real familiar.
The word she uses, Beti, Beti means daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, 'cause I heard her, like, the great grandmother call her that
yeah,
too.
and so it's like a term of endearment as well.
That's what Kamala's mom calls her, and I kept reading it as beta. And I was like, that's so cute. And then someone's like, that's not what that is. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're calling a female that, it's beti. If you're calling it if you're using it for a male, it's beta. Yeah.
And
So
then I was seeing, so nani is how she says grandma, and then nana is grandpa.
Yeah.
So a slight inflection difference, because we could be our nana or whatever. Yeah. So the spelling is the same, but for women, it's like, oh, it's my nana. Yeah. So I liked learning those little things. Go ahead, too. Sorry. No, I was just saying I liked learning those little cultural sort of small words that aren't they aren't necessarily the big ones, but it's just like, oh, look how it someone who knows wrote the it just made me feel good that someone who's a part of the culture was involved in making it because of those small little things that I didn't know until could be wrong, but it still made me feel good. I was just like, oh, look at that. Because there are certain things that, a black person watching an episode would be that's, you just know, there's those little things that they lace into an episode where you're like, someone black was writing this. I could tell. You could tell. I feel like maybe that was the same way for South Asian people.
Right? Yeah. And it's nice to see those little tidbits of home or your culture, or even that one word, beti. It might not mean a whole lot for other people, but for the people who know, or the word prem, or sometimes it's nice to see those kind of things, on TV. And even at the end, even, when they close the episode, even the theme of Doctor Who was
my goodness. I know.
That was good.
I'm done.
That was rude. I was like, when I was like, oh, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. Why would they do that?
And I'm mad at myself because, the preview for next week comes up and then they, air the credits, so I muted my TV because I was going to, turn to something else or whatever. And then I saw it on Twitter and I was just like, I missed this, because of the preview. I wish they kind of, I don't know, I'd done it in a different order or something, because
BBC America,
really nice. BBC America.
I don't know what they're doing this year.
Even after Rosa, when they played and I Rise Up, and you're going to cry, because, how could you not?
On purpose. They're like, this is our cry moment. We got
this
you now.
This is a cry moment. We got to cry, but I thought that was a very... that was a very endearing touch to the episode. So
yeah, I kind of want more of that. I want to watch. I want every culture to get the Doctor Who theme in some sort of in their cultural. We have our trap theme for TARDIS.
I mean, also low key the theme right now for Doctor Who.
It's low key.
I do the little drop in the beginning. That was.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's very. I think it's very vintage. The opening of the new show. So, but
I think that's what they were saying. That they kind of went back to the original theme song to.
It's very 1983 to me. So I'm like, we're back to the 80s. But I as a person of color, especially a person who's Indian, it's their history. I thought. They did a great job. It has to be scary and I think it's great that they had an Indian person write the episode. And so I think
Indian musicians for the theme and everything. Yep. They really went all in on. And I liked
delivering. If you follow Vinay on Twitter, there's a picture on his Twitter page about all the books that you could read about the partition, and it's. So,
didn't he post something today where his grandmother gave him a watch?
He was like, my grandma hasn't seen. He was like, my grandma hasn't seen this episode. She had no idea, but she just gave me a watch from my grandfather or something, and I'm just like, how is this your life?
Like I said, I don't believe in coincidences. Right. Things happen for a reason, but that's just freaky.
But also, amazing. I feel like maybe his grandmother did know. She was like, I watched that episode. You don't know I watched it. But I asked the youth next door about the Doctor Who thing, and they put it on the television. Because I mean,
she
we
still
did
had
that.
to have a watch though.
Well, yes, that
You know,
was-
like
yes.
the time, it's still like she
You know,
still had
it's
to
still
have a
kinda
watch.
freaky,
Like
though.
I
Yeah.
know what I have.
Right? I mean, that's kind of freaky, though. So,
I will say another thing about Yaz that I'm thinking about right now is I really love the more British the better in my life in my television. But I was like really struck on her accent, like a lot of like her sayings and things.
I love
and
her accent.
I really loved because she was at like in Pakistan, like with her like grandmother and great grandmother and stuff, and yet she's like, you know, they're demons and you've worried that I'm gonna get all gobby, and I'm like gobby. That's a great word, you know. And like she did, there were a couple of things, and like she said like donut, and like the way that she said it, I don't know. It was very like. Not only was it British, but it was very like Sheffield or not London and like Northern. In a way that like, from what I understand about like the Eccleston era and stuff like that, and like even a lot of like Tennant, like they wouldn't really let him do the Scottish accent. He had to do an English accent, and the English accent that he put on. You know, like feels like also they're going away from a lot of the like classist kind of like you know this is what proper Who's
especially because they're all from Sheffield. Like it's not just one companion. Like they live like right down the street from each other. They all live there, so it's not like they got companions from different places and like one happens to be from central London or whatever. So I like that it's sort of like, oh, we're really specific here.
Yeah, and it's like it just feels like it's more inclusive of even like just London or not London, sorry, even just like Britain and like what that means. And like we got a lot of like in the beginning and early who like Cardiff.
Right, I was about to say like after we got Cardiff all that time, they're like, oh, maybe we should censor a different part of England.
Yeah, but like even like I always noticed too, like even when we were like Cardiff, like well, there's no Welsh people on the TARDIS. There's no Welsh, like no one's Welsh. So like, what are we? You know, what's happening? Cardiff.
I've been to Cardiff 3 times, and Cardiff is lovely, but it ain't that big, people. You gotta, you gotta go somewhere else. I like that it's not a proper British accent. It's more of like a Cockney kind of.
Yeah. Because that accent is very.
It's real life, you know.
It's real life, but it's also very kind of like made fun of and frowned upon, and like you know, like even like a lot of the shows that I watch to this like today, I watch like weekly panel shows, and they make fun of that northern accent, and they're always played for laughs. It's kind of like our southern accent.
So at the sort of end of our episodes, we rant and rave about Ryan because, you know, time and relative blackness in space, and he is our current black companion. So yeah, Ryan gets a gold star this episode. I love that the doctor's like keeping points, and she's like, wait, I'm supposed to be keeping points. Okay, you get a gold star. I wonder if next week she's going to have like a different rating system. Like 2 thumbs up.
50 points to Gryffindor.
Right. Oh my goodness. If she does, I would die.
So this episode is not really focused on developing him at all, which I think is good, because at this point we've gotten like he's had the most development of this season. But I do like that in what we do see him what we see of him, he's very much like he has his confidence. Like I think the first couple episodes that was not really a thing. He was very much second guessing himself a lot and like not really feeling like he could do some of the stuff, and now he's like taking charge when he's talking to Prem, like, we can help you, but not the doctor can help you, which is like a different thing. And I feel like a lot of companions usually do that and say like, oh, the doctor can help you, so just trust the doctor. But he's like, nah, we got it. Like, be cool. And he's asking all the right questions, you know. It's
with this and with, I forget the name of last week's Pating. We're seeing Ryan more than anyone else on the TARDIS having a lot of confidence in them as like a team and a group. And I think that just like shows up again.
He had me cracking up when he's running, when like Yaz and Graham are having this like real heart to heart, and then Ryan is like, "We lost the doctor."
He said, "Red alert, red alert, red alert," and I was like,
did they come up with this code phrase?
You just hear him,
right? Yeah. I didn't even think it was him because I was just like, "Who was yelling like that?"
Because I was like, "What are like the military coming? What is red alert? Like, why are we screaming that?"
And I'm like, did they plan this code word in advance? Like, all right, guys, if we lose the doctor,
that was Call of Duty. Call of Duty got him ready.
Gone. I just we gotta be ready. I do like right behind them, like, and like I get it because they got teleported to another place, so I understand. But she was like 2 minutes behind him.
I do love his fist bump, and he's always like, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah,
yeah. He's like,
yeah. I feel like him and Graham were level this week, which makes sense because they've been traveling, on all these adventures, both that we've seen and also like ones that we haven't seen. So I feel like their relationship has gotten to a place where he's not constantly snarking at him because they're just so used to like hanging out, especially in these like weird circumstances. So it was interesting to like see that
twist.
Yeah, like to see them not like get on each other's nerves this week, or Graham get on Graham's nerves.
And I also think their rapport is getting better too. Like but I also think that like again, like the doctor stands for Yaz, and so like the two of them, I think, have their own thing, right? And so they're like, Yaz was like, "So doctor, we're going back in time," and they're just like, "We shouldn't. Okay, fine, we're gonna do it." And she's like, "Are you guys cool?" And they're just like, "I mean, we're just along." It feels awesome like they're along for the ride,
Yeah,
as long as there's no turtles. So I think it's like they kind of at that point they're kind of having their own bonding that is off screen, but like that way they can have it's a little bit more comedic, I feel like.
But even there, it's like when you first saw that these were the companions, you were thinking, wow, what a weird bunch of people put together. You never thought that was going to be their story, which in it is a stereotype of itself. We never thought that they could be, grandson and grandfather, even though he's a step, grandson. But, it's you didn't go there. Your brain didn't go right there. Like, that was the connection. So even from the first episode, it was just very different. It was just something we didn't see. So I really, really liked their relationship. And, what binds them together is loss, grieving over, someone that they love, that's their bond, and, but I like that, you get, every single adventure is from a different point of view, a very, very different point of view. And I like that about this season, that they do that. But he's still cute, though.
He's so cute. He's so cute. They got that
down. A perfect nose, perfect jaw.
It's just, it's a little bit rude, but like, I'm okay.
Right? My husband was like, "Do you need a moment?" I was like, I do.
And then he like makes faces, and I'm just like, can you just not? Like, can you chill?
When he smiles, oh my God, it's like New York City lighting up.
And the dimples, just like, the dimples are there.
I'm just like, calm down. Be cool.
You're at a 13, I'm going to need you at a 9.
Please, you're doing a lot.
We get it. You're adorable. We get it.
And like all these behind the scenes things they've been posting.
Like, when he fell off the cart.
Dancing. I don't think I saw that one. But
when they were filming, he fell off the cart.
Of course.
She tagged him on it today on Twitter. It was either yesterday night or this morning. But
I did, but I didn't watch it because I hadn't watched the episode yet. But I did see it. Like, I saw the tweet.
Yeah.
I need to watch that.
Yeah, he just fell off that cart.
I think I am enjoying that. It seems like they are enjoying each other, and I am hopeful. So I think I talked about this, like the reason why I'm so in love with 11, Amy and Rory, even though that it went left, it's like their chemistry. And I remember being at Comic-Con when the year that they like just took over Comic-Con, and they just were so adorable everywhere. In every circumstance. Like I saw
Karen and her boys, man.
I saw the Hall H panel, And then they came to like a Nerdist taping, and I saw them there, and they handed out burritos.
That's amazing.
And they were just so like, and like they liked each other so much that you couldn't help but like that about them. And I feel like we're gonna get the same thing here. Like I feel like they like each other, and it's showing. Yeah. It's showing on the screen as well.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Well, I hope I hope we get a several seasons from them. Hopefully.
Yeah.
They stay.
I feel like episodes are too short.
Yes, 10 episodes. No, I need more.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to do quotes from the TARDIS?
Let's do it. We shouldn't have come. I'm too nice. This is what happens when you're too nice.
Listen, as a fellow Hufflepuff 13, I get it. I absolutely would have taken Yaz to see her grandma, even though I know that, we could have some time ghosts up in here destroying the fabric of reality. So I get it. As a fellow Hufflepuff, I totally understand. And I wonder if she's going to change it all. Doubt it.
Probably not.
But I also go ahead.
I was realizing like this episode, and like it's popped up in the earlier ones, but now I feel like the Doctor is settled, so we kind of know who she is, and she's so earnest and eager. Yeah, she's so earnest and eager, and like just like happy to have friends, and like so they ask her to do stuff, and she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it. We probably should, but I'm gonna figure out a way where this makes sense, and we're gonna do it." Like she's very just like. She's happy, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also did love that because it also led to a lot of really good moments with her and Yaz, where Yaz is like, oh, I thought we weren't supposed to be getting involved. I thought we weren't supposed to.
Yeah, right?
And like for Yaz, like it's much more imperative that she doesn't get involved than like the Doctor. But I did like that she was like, Yaz is gonna, like you could tell like she was having like Father's Day flashbacks and apprehensions from that. Like, oh God, this is. Like, when Yaz hopped off that cart and gave that big hug, she was like, oh, no, I've made a mistake. But then, like, it also just kind of strengthened, like, that feeling of, like, their relationship that they've built on the TARDIS of, like, well, I can, poke at you the same way that you poked at me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People grow up. We all have to find our own way. Did Graham say that? I didn't write this one.
Yeah, I said that about Manish.
Mm.
Oh.
Yikes.
Manish, man. I'm so...
Especially because he, our Asian Harry Potter in our dreams.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be. Like, if I should have known that he would disappoint me.
Oh, God. Harry Potter.
Should have known he made the wrong choice at the end.
I'm talking to cover my latent worry, which I love because 13.
I read that, and I heard that and immediately wrote Robin. Like, I immediately was like, Robin!
I was like, oh my God.
In all caps.
I feel so seen. There are so many times that I'm like,
just
oh my God,
talking.
Shut up.
Just
but
keep
if
talking.
You keep talking, the anxiety can't settle.
Leave these people alone. They're under my protection now. I love a good "it is protected" moment. I feel like I was.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I was waiting for it to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, she was like there under my protection and not like this whole planet is mine.
Yeah.
So, she's taking it in stride and taking it piece by piece.
More because of focus,
Mm-hmm. Piece by
she's
piece.
She's like a planetary mama bear.
Love that.
We can't have a universe with no Yaz.
This is true.
That was my favorite.
This is
very
absolutely true.
And I loved it very much.
And it also she said it in the same way that she was like, tea at Yaz's. I love a good tea at Yaz's. I've never done that before. What's up, Yaz's mom? Like, I just love the way that she says Yaz's name with just like...
She just loves Yaz's whole family.
So much gusto.
Just like boundless enthusiasm when she can say Yaz's name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My references to Bonnie and gender regeneration are all in jest. Which is great because she forgets, and it's like, girl, you were with people who don't know. Also, the people you're with also kind of don't know. Your companions are like, I still don't quite understand what that means, but you gotta pretend you're joking. I know you're serious, but I don't we can't do this right now, especially in 1947.
We're already out of time. We can't explain why and how you also used to be a man with 12 other faces.
Right.
Let's do that.
Several other accents.
Several other.
Love in all its forms is the most powerful weapon we have. It was such a Dumbledore moment, but I liked it, and it needed to happen.
But also, there are going to be so many Whovian weddings where the doctor's speech is going to be as part of the ceremony, and I'm like, I'm nowhere near being first, but I'm taking note. And, 1 Corinthians 13, which is the chapter in the Bible about love, and you just weave them into each other, and people probably wouldn't even notice.
They wouldn't notice your slick. I will stand up in the aisles and be like, I got it.
I understood that reference.
I understood that reference.
For y'all that don't know.
And then there'd be family members and preachers looking through 1 Corinthians I didn't notice that part.
Which Bible you got? I missed that one.
It's the NIV. It's the NIV.
You don't have that one? The New Galilean?
The New Galilean.
You got the New James edition, right? The King James?
Oh,
I got the New Galilean.
I got the New Galilean.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cannot.
Tweeting it.
Oh my God.
Okay. So that's it.
We made it, guys. What a way to end. Thank you so much, Kumutha, for joining us and our rambles.
Like a party.
You can check us out at blackgirlscreate.org. You can follow our Twitter account at WeBlackandNerds. Follow Bayana at Yana_Hollows. Follow Robin at Robin_Ravenclaw. Follow me at Constar24. And you can follow Kumutha at Kumutha Lane on Twitter. Also use the hashtag Tarbis when you're watching Doctor Who, when you want to talk about Doctor Who, when you want to talk about our podcast. Just use the hashtag Tarbis because it's great. You can also join our Slack where we have a channel dedicated to conversations about Doctor Who and all sorts of other things. Also, don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and wherever your podcasts are found.
Tarbis is a part of Hard Knock Media. We have joined the Nerds of Color podcast network, including the podcasts Hard Knock Life, Southern Fried Asian, DC TV Classics, Ask Bi Girls, They See Geek Girls, We're Not All Ninjas, and That Moment. You can check all these podcasts at hardnocmedia.com.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and you can join us next week when we discuss episode 7, Kerblam.
With an exclamation point.
Kerblam!
Bam!
Did I not do it with the exclamation point the first time?
Yeah, I don't think you hit it.
Blam!
Blam! You gotta do it with that Emerald Lagasse. What?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Kerblam! All right. Bye, y'all.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Good night, Gotti.
The black girls have the box.